recording. Vamos a grabar. Y muy buenos días. Y está lloviendo. Está lloviendo. It is raining. Y estoy contenta. I am happy. I am happy with the rain because it's so rare here. So just so you can get prepared and have materials ready or pulled up on your computer if you do it that way, whichever you choose to do is fine with me. I don't care if you never print a page, ever. A mí no me importa, it does not matter to me, but just so you know which pages we'll be talking about today. We will be talking about, did we do all of this page? We didn't yet. We didn't do the answers, right?
I don't think so.
No, okay. We're going to do the answers to this page, which is kind of the introduction to adjectives. We're going to give you the answers for this page. So we'll take a look at this. Okay, so that's all adjectives. So you'll want to either pull those up on the computer or if you have them printed out, do that. Whichever you want to do is great. When we're done with those and any questions about that you have about adjectives, if you have like some props of things you want to talk about and describe with adjectives, have that ready, handy. I've got two things I'm going to talk about, and even if you don't have stuff, I have some things to talk about. So it'll be kind of show and tell time if you prepared something. So that's going to be all things adjectives. We're going to move on to use some of that house vocabulary to see how ser and estar and maybe even tener come into talking about descriptions of a house. So that's going to be most of our lesson today. When we're done with that adjective part, we are going to go through some basic vocabulary for adjectives, some opposites that we typically use. And we're going to do a little tiny intro on what to do about directions, because the next chapter in your book is going to talk about directions, but sadly that winds up being, well, not sadly, if you travel, when we're able to travel, typically one thing that almost all tourists wind up having to do is ask directions. When you are someplace that is English speaking, you wind up at some point having to ask for directions. So it's a really, really essential tourist skill, survival skill that tourists need to have. But the sad part of that is that it becomes kind of complicated because there are many different kinds of vocabulary that might be used from one region to another, from people just switching gears and expressing something one way instead of a different but identical way. So we're going to do kind of a crash course, a basics course in direction for like the last, I want to say maybe half hour of class, I hope. Okay. So that you have an introduction to that, and we won't go into all the vocabulary, but like basic stuff you need. And I'm going to give you some videos you can watch also on the side that will like fill out some of the details. And we'll talk about why that becomes kind of problematic. It becomes problematic just because there's such a wide range of vocabulary that, you could be going on for like 3 weeks about just, directions, which is a long time. We really only want to spend about a week on that. Okay. Vale, muy bien. Okay. Let's start with adjectives. Vamos a empezar con adjetivos. And I'm going to share with you just some general info here. Oh, where my buttons are buzzing out on me here. Okay. Adjectives have to agree with. That means match up with the thing that they talk about. If you're talking about a pen, la pluma, they have to, everything that talks about la pluma has to be in a feminine form and a singular form, okay? If I talk about el celular, the cell phone, every descriptive word talking about that cell phone would have to be match up with the masculine singular phone, okay? But if I talked about two electronic devices, that would have to be a masculine plural word. So on and so forth. That's the way it goes. So the challenge becomes, how do I find, or how do I use the correct form of the adjectives? So adjectives that end in a letter O in general will go into all four forms. That means masculine singular, a onesie item, masculine plural, two or more, feminine singular, just one item, and feminine plural, okay? So you'll have those endings. If an adjective ends in O, and that's the reason they start you off with colors, because lots of color adjectives end in O, that O may morph into an A, it may morph into an os, it may morph into an as. Okay, so adjectives that end in O go into four full-blown forms. Adjectives that don't end in O, and this is for most cases, there are a few exceptions to the rule, but adjectives that end in O really only generally need two forms. Okay. The masculine and feminine will share the same form. So there won't be a change from masculine to feminine. So adjectives that don't end in O. Most characteristically, the last letter, instead of being an O, tends to be a letter E, or as we call it in Spanish, E. Or it might be an L, an L, or it might be a Z. It could be an N. I mean, anything that isn't an O, if that's the last letter of the adjective, you'll use the same form for masculine, the same form for feminine. All you worry about is making them plural. Meaning you add an S or an ES. Okay, so not too bad. Now, the one disclaimer is that nationality adjectives, so words like German, French, English, Spanish, Italian, Argentine, Chilean, Mexican, any nationality adjectives, if they end in O, they follow the same rule. If they don't, then we do need to go into feminine forms. Don't worry about that yet. Okay, I'll send you the link to this so you can see what happens with those, but I wouldn't get all twisted up about the nationality ones, because when you're talking with people, you'll generally be using other adjectives. You'll be describing things according to maybe their size, if they're big or small, or heavy or light, or colors, or, all those kinds of things. So those will be a little bit more common. So let's take a look at our color adjectives, and we're going to look at the answers. This is the great big chart with the nice colorful things. So if you want to call that up either on the computer, if you bring up a second screen, or if you printed it out. And the reason the colors are used as an example is because we have lots of adjectives that end in O. We have lots of adjectives that also don't end in O. Okay, we've got azul, we've got verde, we've got marron, we've got gris. So we've got a variety of some color adjectives that fall into that non-O letter category, okay? So, and a couple of these won't be quite as, if you got stuck on pitufos, Smurfs, don't fret. Some of these are cultural references. This page was designed by somebody who lives in Europe, so it's a little bit different. Okay, la bandera de Francia. La bandera de Francia. We're not talking about France, we're talking about la bandera. Bandera is a flag, right? So these words are going to have to be feminine category words. La bandera de Francia es azul. We need two more colors.
Roja y blanca.
Roja y blanca. And those have to be feminine forms. So if you wrote it down, but if you wrote it as rojo en blanco, you need to put an A on the end of those words. Roja y blanca, because we're talking about bandera, okay? La bandera de Alemania. Alemania is Germany, okay? And their colors are black, red, and yellow. Black, red, and yellow. Salud. Salud. Salud is what you say when you sneeze. Yes, salud. Okay. Black, yellow, and red. So again, we're talking about bandera. So now you've got a Q, because the Q starts with negra, a feminine form already. La bandera de Alemania es negra. We need two more colors. We need the yellow and the black. Oh, I'm sorry. No, we have the black. We need the yellow and the red.
Amarilla y roja.
Negra, amarilla y roja. Es negra, amarilla y roja. And of course, it doesn't matter what order you have those in, because color doesn't need to be in a certain order. Okay. La bandera de Estados Unidos tiene estrellas. It has stars. We're really talking about the color of the stars. Las estrellas. So we have to match up the color of the stars with that word estrellas, a feminine plural. Tiene estrellas. And the color is white. So we're going to want a feminine and a plural word for white.
Blancas.
Blancas, bien. La bandera de Estados Unidos tiene estrellas blancas. Estrellas blancas. And notice, they don't say blancas estrellas. It's estrellas blancas, stars white. Adjectives that are truly descriptive, that truly create a picture in your mind, come after the noun. That's the opposite of what we do in English. Adjectives that talk about amounts come in front of the noun. So if they said many stars, it would be muchas estrellas, because many just gives you an amount, right? Numbers, amounts, anything that talks about how much, that would be in front of the noun. But things that paint a picture of what that thing looks like, they'll be after the noun. So most adjectives, the majority of them, wind up coming after the noun they describe. Número cuatro, los tomates son. Los tomates son, we want a red, well, I guess they could be green, but los tomates son
Rojos.
rojos. Los
Sorry,
tomates
Roger.
son rojos. Los tomates son rojos. You know, you could say los tomates son verdes, some are green, but then it would probably be están verdes, because they're green if they're not yet ripe, yeah? Okay, Homer Simpson's skin is a certain color.
Amarillo.
Amarillo, and Homer is a guy, so Homer Simpson es amarillo. And then we're going to talk about el pelo de Marge Simpson. We're not talking about Marge, we're talking about el pelo, her hair. And pelo is a masculine word. Even if it's on a woman, the word pelo is a masculine word. So we're describing pelo. El pelo de Marge Simpson es
Azul.
azul. The next one I'm going to do for you, because a lot of Americans are not familiar with los pitufos, the Smurfs. Los pitufos, and that's the word they use for them in Spain, son Azules, they are little blue people. Son azules, and there I do need to make azul plural. Azul ends in an L, so I make it plural by adding an ES, azules. Los pitufos son azules, okay? And now we've got two things. We've got an either or situation. That o word, when o is by itself, it means or. El chocolate es
Marron
marrón
blanco.
o
Blanco.
blanco. El chocolate es marrón, brown o blanco. Bien, chocolate masculino. Vale. Los pepinos. Pepinos are cucumbers. Yeah. Los pepinos son
Verde.
verdes. Now we gotta be plural,
Ah.
right? Because pepinos plural. Los pepinos son verdes. El carbón, coal or charcoal. El carbón es
Negro.
negro. Muy bien, muy bien. La leche, milk, la leche es
Blanca.
blanca. Perfecto. La leche es blanca. The milk is white. La sangre, sangre es blood. La sangre es
Roja.
roja. La sangre es roja. Okay? Vale. So, any question on why we did what we did with these? If you do, don't be afraid to speak up. Adjectives are a challenging thing. And I'm also going to tell you, as you are starting out, be more concerned with getting the actual vocabulary word right, even if you get the form messed up, because somebody will still understand you if you get the actual base word correct, right? Like you're pointing out something that is black in color. Getting into that base word of negro is the most important thing first off. If you get the wrong form of negro, okay, you may give them a minor brain fart, but at least they know what color you're talking about. Yeah. So
Marilyn, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, okay. I may have been on mute before.
You might have been, but you're not now. We can hear you.
Okay.
Okay. Bien. So colors were just used as a device to step us into adjectives. But, and actually you had a little video that talked about adjectives, right? His accent is not the best, but he's got some good advice on that. Okay, and next we're going to take a look at this. We're going to maybe skip number 3 because we already talked about pelo azul. This is something I did for my high school students long ago. So we're going to take a look at what word is the correct response. I'm actually going to show a key. So the key is going to look different than this because it's going to fill everything in, and I'm going to have the answer in yellow and amarillo. Okay. We're going to find that sometimes the word in parentheses doesn't change. Sometimes it does, but it will always have to look back to the noun, the thing we're describing, to get the correct form of that adjective. Okay. So let's see, let's take a quick look down this list to see if there are any words that are really like, because there might be some that are not super obvious. Escuela, school. Okay. Chicas, girls. Simpático means nice. A nice person. Simpático has kind of, nice has a more elevated meaning in Spanish than it does in English. You know, nice in English is sort of a lukewarm word now. That has just happened over the years, I think. But nice is a super thumbs up favorable word in Spanish, simpático. Plumas are pens, libros are books, carros and Fiat. Well, that's just a brand name, right? Papas fritas are French fries. French fries, they are literally fried potatoes. And notice how they say French fries. Papas fritas. That word fritas is an adjective. They are fried potatoes. That's what they call French fries. Ocho, the word in ocho perezoso means lazy. Nueve, no, estudiantes, you know what that means. Once mujer is woman. Oh, that's the odd one. I told you to skip it. You'll see what it looks like. This is one of those nationality exceptions. Los chicos son, oh yeah, there are no new words there. 14 tareas means homework pages, you know, like homework tasks. Tareas can mean tasks for homework. For students, they can mean tasks around the house, things that you have to do. And we defined 15 here. What else do we have? I think most of these are pretty obvious, or cognates, or words you're going to recognize. So let's take a look at what the answers are. And you may have a question about how we got to those answers, in which case, ask away. La escuela es importante. We don't have to change that word. La escuela es importante because, well, it ends in an E. It's the same for masculine and feminine, right? But the number two does have to change. Las chicas son simpáticas. Las chicas son simpáticas. The girls are nice. Marge Simpson tiene el pelo azul. We already had that before. Las plumas son azules. The pens are blue. So literally you are saying those pens are blues. That's the way they speak. That's the way they think. Okay, las plumas son azules. And azul does not end in an O, so we just make it plural. It's the same for masculine and feminine. We just add on an ES to the end. Los libros son difíciles. We need to make that plural because libros is plural, but difícil, it'll be the same for masculine and feminine. We just make it plural, difíciles. Okay. Los carros Fiat son italianos. Italiano ends in an O, so we need the full-blown 4 different forms. Italianos, masculine, plural. Las papas fritas son deliciosas. We're talking about papas, papas fritas. It's a feminine word, it's a plural word, so we get 2 deliciosas. Los chicos son perezosos, lazy. It's a masculine word because we're talking about chicos there. Las chicas son muy malas. Malo, the baseline word, is a word that ends in O, so it goes into all 4 forms. We need a feminine plural. Las chicas son muy malas. 10. Los estudiantes son buenos. And here I went into a bunch of forms, so kind of ignore all of those here. La mujer rubia es alemana. This is the one that I asked you to kind of skip over. It's one of those nationality words. Nationality words, even if they don't end in O, they just do something different than the other ones. Nationality words will go into a feminine form, even though they don't end in O. So I'm showing you some words that go from masculine to feminine in that nationality category. Alemana is German. Francés or francesa would be French. Español or española would be Spanish. Inglés or inglesa would be English. Those are some examples of nationality words that don't end in O. A lot do. Mexicano, chileno, norteamericano, mexicano, peruano. So, you know, a lot of them do end in O, but those are some examples of ones that do not. Los chicos son rubios. The boys are blonde. Las mujeres son imposibles. Imposible is the same for masculine and feminine, but I need to make it plural. I have to add an S onto the end. Número 14. Las tareas de biología son fáciles. Fácil ends in an L, so it's the same for masculine, feminine. I need to make it plural because tareas is more than one. Gray does not end in O, so I'm going to need to make it plural. Las nubes son grises. The clouds are gray. Literally, they say those clouds are grays. That's the way they phrase it, okay? 16. Los platos españoles son ricos. Spanish dishes are delicious. Ricos is another way of expressing deliciosos, okay? Both of these words, españoles, and again, this is one of those nationality words that's a little bit different. They're both looking at the word platos as the noun. So, españoles, plural, ricos, plural. Los elefantes son enormes. They are enormous. La hierba es verde. That stayed the same because verde ends in an E, same for masculine, feminine. But los ojos son verdes. We need that one plural. And the last one is a real trick one. The first adjective is talking about uniform. El uniforme. So, la chica en el uniforme rojo, the girl in the red uniform, because the uniform is red. But now the uniform isn't athletic, the girl's athletic. Oh, so we have to understand the context, right? Rojo talks about uniforme. So it becomes el uniforme rojo. El uniforme rojo. But la chica es atlética, es muy atlética. Atlética is not talking about the uniform, it's talking about the girl. Atlética has to go into a feminine form. Okay?
Marilyn, could you restate what you said about 18? Why isn't it verda?
Okay. Verde ends in the letter E, the letter E. Adjectives that do not end in O keep the same form for masculine and feminine.
Yeah, okay.
Verde doesn't end in O. So it's verde whether it's masculine, it's verde whether it's feminine, doesn't matter.
All right, so if they don't end in O, is that what?
If an adjective that does not end in O will keep the same form of that adjective for a masculine form and a feminine form. They share the exact same word. You just make it plural. So the exception to that is that nationality thing. But you know, if we're talking about things, that's not the most common kind of adjective. So yeah, make sense?
Yes, if it ends in O, then it has a feminine form.
If it ends in O, sí, exacto.
But if it does not end in O, regardless, then it keeps the same form.
It keeps the same form. You just worry about, do I make it plural?
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Eso es. That's it. Okay. Bien? Are we good with that? So far?
Yeah.
See? Okay. Now, doing it consistently is something everybody needs to practice a lot. I mean, because you mentally know that does not mean that's going to be the thing that comes out of your mouth every time. So that's why we'll practice with certain things. You're going to hear lots and lots of examples. Many examples so that you start to get the hang of that, because that really is the way you start to become familiar with it, is by seeing and hearing loads and loads of examples. Okay. If you have an item you want to describe, I'd like you to grab it now. I'm going to describe 2 items. And if you didn't bring something, don't worry about it. Sometimes our days get, messed up. I have Actually, I have three things. Tengo tres cosas. Tengo, I have. Tengo tres cosas. Una copa. Una copa. Una copa. This is not just any glass. Yeah, it's not one water glass. See, es una copa. When we're talking about a glass of an alcoholic beverage like wine, we call it a copa. A copa. Es una copa. And copa ends in an a, so you know it's a feminine word, la copa. Okay, voy a describir la copa. I'm going to describe the glass. La copa es grande. La copa es grande. Es una copa rosada. You may not be able to see the color, el color. Es una copa rosada. Rosada, it's pinkish, see? Es una copa rosada. Es muy grande. Grande doesn't change in form. Es rosada. That does go into feminine form. Es una copa de vidrio. It's made out of glass. Out of glass is not an adjective. So it's de vidrio. I talk about the material it's made out of. Es de vidrio. Es de vidrio. Es mi copa favorita. Es mi copa favorita porque me gusta, porque me gusta mucho el color. Me gusta mucho el color. Es una copa muy delicada. 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 It's delicate. Yeah? Okay.
Marilyn, is copa glass or cup?
Copa is a glass for a wine. Not a water glass. Una copa. So if somebody walks up to you and says, quiero, or if somebody walks up and says, ¿Quieres tomar una copa? You want to have a glass with me? They're not talking about a glass of soda. They're saying, do you want to have a drink with me? An alcoholic drink. Una copa. Okay? ¿Quieres una copa?
I have another descriptive thing, but is taza or taza cup?
Taza is a cup.
Okay.
Taza is a cup. What we would typically put, well, we could put water in there. Coffee, tea, could be water. A glass that holds water, like a water glass, is vaso. B chica, the VASO, vaso. Vaso is used for a glass, but that would be like a water glass. Un vaso. This is not just a plain old vaso because I use this for wine, for an alcoholic beverage. So they would typically call it una copa. We have strange names for different.
Copa is like a wine glass.
Yeah.
That's, yeah, okay.
Sí.
Okay.
Yeah, sí. But if somebody asks you, ¿Quieres tomar una copa? Do you want to have a little drink with me?
Yeah.
They'll use that word for a wine glass to say, you want to have a little alcoholic beverage with me? They'll call it una copa. And what they mean, it could be a shot, it could be a beer, it could be something,
Yeah,
but it'll be something. They're not asking you to come up for a cup of coffee if they say una copa.
Okay. But vaso, that's a glass of water.
Vaso, glass of water, sí. Un vaso de agua. Un vaso de agua. Un vaso con un refresco, with soda. Bien.
Or leche.
Un vaso de leche, muy típico, muy típico. Un vaso de leche, a glass of milk. Un vaso de jugo, a juice glass. Muy típico, very typical, pero una copa. Bien? Ok. El segundo ejemplo. Oh, tengo un mango. Un mango es una fruta. Fruta is not a description. I'm telling what it is. Un mango es una fruta. Este mango, and this is masculine, like unlike copa, wine glass, which is feminine, el mango. El mango es pesado. Es pesado porque es grande. Es grande, es grande, es grande, ¿bien? Es grande, es pesado, heavy, ¿sí? Es rojo, es de, uy, no sé, es del Caribe. It's from the Caribbean. They grow mangoes in the Caribbean, right? Sí, sí. Y por fin, los audífonos, and this is plural because there are two pieces on this. So like we say headphones, not headphone, but headphones, because there are two pieces here, yeah? Like glasses, there are two pieces, like pants, there are two legs, yeah? Audífonos. Audífonos son audífonos. Audífonos, ¿sí? Son audífonos. Son mis audífonos favoritos. Mis audífonos favoritos son rojos. Son rojos. Son muy pequeños. They're really small. Los audífonos negros son grandes. Los audífonos rojos son pequeños. Muy ligeros, muy ligeros, light, ¿sí? Son ideales, they are ideal, son ideales cuando camino en el parque, cuando hago ejercicio, when I exercise. Los rojos son ideales. They are ideal. Y no están en el oído, están aquí, al lado, al lado de la oreja. ¿Sí? Caben aquí al lado de la oreja. ¿Bien? Ok. No están dentro. They don't go inside. Son magníficos. Ok. Bien. Anybody got something they want to talk about? An item, a show and tell item.
Let Roger go first.
Roger, dinos
Well, I've
algo.
got to read it, but
That's
tengo
okay.
muy,
Está bien.
tengo muy grande taza para medir.
Oh, para medir, to measure.
Right. Tengo para cocinar avena en el horno de
Microondas.
Yeah.
I want you to try that word, Roger. Microondas.
Microondas.
Microondas. We keep it all, microondas.
And then la avena no hierve encima de borda.
La avena, oatmeal, la avena no hierve sobre el horno. It doesn't boil on the stove.
Is that all right? Is that the way you say it?
No
I mean,
hierve. It does not boil. We're going to talk,
Yeah.
you're going to read about what happens with like all these other verbs. Sí. Hierve, it boils. Hierve en el microondas.
Yes. See.
Cocina, or we can say it's an easier word to pronounce, this word cocina, it cooks. You learned cocina as a place in the house, which it is, la cocina, the kitchen, pero cocina as a verb means it cooks. La avena, the oatmeal, la avena cocina en el microondas. It cooks in the
Yep, microwave.
microwave.
Yeah.
Bien. Bueno, Roger, la taza muy grande, la taza que tienes tú, cup that you
Oh.
have. La taza es de vidrio. It's made out of glass, ¿verdad? Right?
Yes.
Es de vidrio. Es de vidrio. No es de cerámica. No, no es de cerámica como esta. Es de vidrio. It's made out of glass.
And how is that spelled?
Vidrio?
Yeah.
Vidrio. I will spell it in the chat box for it. And this is the glass that is a material. Vidrio. B chica, I, D, R, I, otra es O. Vidrio. B chica, I, D, R, I, O. Vidrio, glass as the material. But notice when we talk about glass, it's like a glass of milk. Then the word glass is vaso, which looks like vase, but it means glass. Vaso, a glass you drink out of, like for milk or water, vaso. But glass, the material, is vidrio, or they also use the word cristal. So for this, I would probably not say vidrio so much. I would say cristal, because you know, cristal is like the nicer stuff. Yeah. The stuff that makes a nice ting when you ding it. Yeah. Es eso. Okay. So you may hear cristal. And I'll put down here fine glass because, you know, oh, crystal, right? Yeah, we use that word crystal too, cristal. So that's a cognate. It means what you think it does. But vidrio, you probably wouldn't guess. Eso es magnífico.
And that's VIBRIO.
VIDRIO.
Oh,
Vidrio. We punch the first E. Vidrio. Vidrio.
okay.
Yeah, es de vidrio. Okay. And notice when we talk about materials, the material something's made out of is not an adjective. In English, we can say wooden shoe, you know, a glass case, you know, but in Spanish, when you talk about the material something's made out of, they use the word de and then the material. And that material is a noun, it's a thing. So it cannot become an adjective. It just stays whatever noun it is. Es de cerámica. Es de cerámica. Es por ejemplo, es de plástico. Es de plástico. Bien, sí. Un libro es de papel. Sí, eso es. Ok. Una silla es de madera. It's made out of wood. So when I'm talking about materials, that material cannot change into wooden. It is of wood. De madera, de cerámica, de plástico. Okay, those just stay what they are because they're things: plastic, ceramic, wood. Okay. Bien.
So it's of and then the noun.
And the noun of that material, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of description, when we talk about the material it's made out of, it stays that material. It doesn't go into an adjective word. Yeah. Okay. Bien. Pat, ¿tienes algo?
Oh, don't know how this will go, but tengo una silla.
Oh,
Silla.
una silla.
La comprada en Cuba.
En Cuba.
Sí.
Qué interesante.
Bien. Wonderful. Okay. Es amarilla, roja, blanca, verde y negra. Y tiene un jarrón.
Sí, lo veo. I see it.
El jarrón es blanco y negra y tiene muchas flores o muchos flores.
Muchas flores.
Muchas.
La flor. Las flores. Muchas
Ah.
flores. And notice she said muchas flores, which is right, because muchas just tells an amount. Real general, right? Muchas flores. Perfecto. Okay. Perfecto. Muy bien. Es una silla decorativa. Decorativa, ¿verdad? Right? Decorativa. No es para sentar. Es una silla muy pequeña, ¿verdad? Bien. Okay. Vale. Let's take a look at some of these descriptions with la casa words. La casa words. Bien. I am uncharacteristically right on time. This is a minor miracle. Okay. And I'm going to make my size a little bit different here because oddly with slides, you go to the negative to make it bigger. With print, you go to the like above 100 to get bigger. I do not understand this about computer stuff, or more specifically Google stuff. Okay. Y el primer ejemplo, we're going to take a look at some of these and we're just going to see these for examples. I'll ask you for maybe a couple ideas, but then we'll look at some examples. So we're going to use ser and estar and tiene. We're going to talk about like what kind of stuff the room has, what kind of stuff the house has. And this won't have all adjectives in it yet. We'll see some more adjectives on a different page, but we're going to look at some of these. We're going to start to mix some of these items all together. Mix our verbs, ser, estar, tener, maybe a little bit of hay. We're going to mix in some adjectives and we're going to start to bring it into all one great big ball that's cascading down, snowballing down the side of the road. Here we go. La sala tiene. The living room es la sala, ¿verdad? Es la sala. La sala tiene un sofá grande. It has a big sofa. Tiene dos ventanas. Tiene dos lámparas. Tiene dos lámparas grandes. It's got two big lamps. Tiene dos mesitas. It's got two side tables. Mesa, table, if we make it smaller, like small table, it becomes mesita. Ita at the end of something makes it a small size of that thing. So mesa, a table, but mesita becomes a small table. Tiene dos mesitas. La sala está en el primer piso de la casa. La sala está, the living room is on. I'm talking about location. So now it's la sala está. I'm talking about where it's located in the house, what floor. Está en el primer piso, okay? It's on the first floor. Okay. ¿Cómo se llama el cuarto? What do we call this room? Or what might we call it? Because there are different words for this kind of room.
It could be cuarto, right?
It could be cuarto. It could be called el cuarto. If you're in a hotel in particular, they'll probably call it la habitación. They could call it la alcoba. They could call it el dormitorio. So there are different words regionally that may be used for that word bedroom. So let's look at some things we might say. And I've used 2 of these terms. Oddly, there are like maybe 4 different words for bedroom. And different countries sometimes kind of have a tendency to go through one word or another. Hotels tend to like either the word cuarto or habitación, one of those 2. But es el dormitorio, that's one way I can refer to it. Es la habitación, that's another way I can refer to it. But notice one word is masculine, one is feminine, even though they're talking about the same room in the house. Es el dormitorio, es la habitación, es muy grande. It's very big, ¿sí? Es muy grande, es muy moderna. Es moderna. If I'm talking about habitación, feminine word, I have to say modern with a feminine word. Es muy moderna. Tiene, it has. Tiene una cama. It's got a bed. Tiene, hay una cama. Hay una cama. I can say there is a bed, or tiene una cama. Hay 2 mesitas. There are 2 side tables. Hay 2 lámparas. There are 2 lamps. Está en el segundo piso. It's located on the
second floor.
second floor. Piso refers to the floors, the levels of a building. If you're in Spain, piso can also mean apartment, but here in Latin America, piso would mean the levels of a building, the floors. And notice when I say it's on the second floor, I have to use that location word. I cannot say es el segundo piso. Es el segundo piso would mean it's the second floor, meaning this floor we're on, it's the second floor. I have to say está en el segundo piso. This room is located on the second floor, okay? Está en el segundo piso, ¿vale? Bueno, okay. ¿Qué cuarto es? What room is this?
La cocina.
La cocina, es la cocina. Es la cocina. What might we say about this room, la cocina, this particular one? What things might we say about this?
Tiene la isla para el comer.
Para comer, to eat, sí. ¿Cuáles son los colores de la cocina? What are the colors? Like main colors. And there's a couple color themes in this.
Gris.
Gris o negra, sí, y blanca, sí, bien. ¿Es una cocina pequeña o es una cocina grande?
Es una cocina grande.
Es una cocina grande, sí. Es una cocina grande. Bueno, ¿tiene una puerta? Does it have? ¿Tiene una puerta?
Sí.
Sí, tiene una puerta. ¿Tiene ventanas?
¿Tiene 2 ventanas?
Tiene 2 ventanas. Hay 2 ventanas, ¿sí? ¿Tiene lámparas?
Tiene 2 lámparas.
Tiene 2 lámparas. Hay 2 lámparas. Hay nevera, there's a fridge, refrigerador, right? Some people use refrigerador, some people use nevera. Nevera is a fridge. Refrigerador is a fridge. Refri, some people reduce that refrigerador because it's a long word too. Refri. Hay un horno, hay 2 sillas. Bien, okay. Let's take a look at some things we might say about that kitchen. Hay 2 sillas, there are 2 chairs en la cocina. Hay una puerta, tiene 2 ventanas. La cocina es blanca y negra, or we might say blanca y gris. Sí, blanca y gris. Yeah, that might look kind of grayish rather than black. Es moderna. It's a modern kitchen. Tiene una nevera grande. It has a big fridge. Tiene un horno moderno. It has a modern stove. So notice moderna talking about the whole kitchen. La cocina is moderna, but moderno talking about horno, an oven, is a masculine word because horno is masculine. See? Bien? Okay.
But Marilyn,
sí.
could you use taburetes?
Taburetes or stools.
Debajo de isla?
Sí. Taburetes would be stool. That I would call that island, which we call an island, don't we, in English?
Yes.
They would generally term that as mostrador, a counter. It's a counter.
Uh-oh.
Es un mostrador. Rather than island. I haven't heard anybody use the word island. I think that's sort of an American term that, you know, with designers has come up over the years, but mostrador, it is a counter. Mostrador.
And how is that? MOS?
Mostrador. I'll take this off share so I can do my chat. I'll put it in the chat box. MOSTRADOR. El mostrador. Counter. El mostrador. El mostrador es masculino. El mostrador. Mostrador is a counter. Mostrador is also a counter, like if you're at the airport and you go up to the counter there.
If you were going to say under the, would it be debajo?
Debajo.
Debajo de.
Debajo de. Debajo de. Debajo de. Underneath. Debajo del mostrador. Underneath the counter. And that kind of comes into our our location stuff with directions that we're going to talk about soon, pronto. Okay, vamos a ver aquí el baño. El baño. El baño es un lugar muy importante. This is an important place. We're going to talk a little bit more about el baño soon. Because el baño sometimes becomes a point of confusion if you're in a public place versus a private place. Es el baño. This is the bathroom. El baño es blanco. It's white. Yeah, generally. Es blanco. Y grande. Es grande. No es pequeño. Tiene una ducha. It's got a shower. Hay también bañera. There is also, that también means also. Hay también bañera. Besides having a ducha, a shower, it also has a separate tub, right? Hay también bañera. Bañera es bathtub. Hay también bañera. Hay dos toallas en el baño. There are two towels. Toallas. Las toallas son blancas. If you're in a hotel setting, and let's say somebody left out the towels, you know that they clean the room, you're first in the room now that you're checking in, and shoot, no towels. So you got to go down to the mostrador, to the la recepción. You go down to the receptionist desk. And you say, no hay toallas, lo siento, sorry, no hay toallas. Necesito dos toallas, por favor. So if you go into your bathroom, el baño, and you find there no hay toallas, there are no towels, you need to go down and tell them, no hay toallas. Necesito dos toallas, por favor. I need two towels, please. Okay. Las toallas son blancas también. Those towels are white too, okay? We're going to talk a little bit about this topic of el baño. And I think in our directions video, you're going to hear him talk about el baño a little bit. el baño is a bathroom, but sometimes in some restaurants, you know, when we're in public places, we need to find a restroom. And it kind of depends on where you are, per country, per the area, per the regional customs of that area. They may use slightly different terminology for bathroom in a public space. They may, baño may be perfectly okay. In the video, that you're going to see later on in class, I'm pretty sure he uses the word baño in a restaurant, and the guy is like, yeah, no problem, and he points to the right place. But sometimes some people have in their mind that baño has a bathtub in it. So a restroom may not be called el baño. So if you say el baño and you get this kind of like, look on somebody's face, it means in that region, they don't like to use the word baño for a public restroom, because a baño has a bathroom. Restroom doesn't have a bathroom, right? So, okay, if they kind of give you a funny look and you use the word baño, just know they want the word restroom. That is what they're used to using in that place. So, ¿dónde está el baño? Is where's the bathroom? But sometimes for some places, the next four may make more sense. And I've got this one underlined. ¿Dónde están los servicios? Los servicios is the services. And los servicios means restroom. So that for a public space, in some places may be the preferred term, los servicios. ¿Dónde están los servicios? Where are the restrooms? Vale, okay. If you're in Spain, but I think this word is only used in Spain, instead of servicios, sometimes they like the word los aseos. Aseos means neat room. That sounds really polite, almost to the point of being British polite. Los aseos, neat room, okay. But servicios underline, because people know what you mean by los servicios, okay? Some people, some areas, they may call it el cuarto de hombres, the men's room. We use that in English, yeah? El cuarto de damas, the ladies' room. Yeah, a damsel in distress needs a restroom. Sí, cuarto de damas. So you may hear, depending on the region you're traveling in, different terms for restroom when you're in a bar, when you're in a restaurant, when you're in a museum, any place that's got a public restroom. They may call it baño, they may call it one of these terms instead. Depende, depends, because 20 different countries, they have different language, you know, requirements in different regions, and you just kind of get a feel for that as you go along. So those are all, oops, and I'm sorry, I should have showed you these. So here are all the things for restroom. And I'll send you the link to this so you'll see all of this. You don't need to copy it down frenetically, right? It might be baño, it might be servicios, it might be aseos, it might be cuarto de hombres, it might be cuarto de damas, might be any of those. But ¿dónde está? Where is? ¿Dónde están? We're going to come back to this ¿dónde está? In a minute. En un minuto. Okay. I need to look on my screen for some quick, we're going to do some quick references. Ooh. Opuestos, there it is. Okay, we're going to take a look at some opposites that they talked about in your book and libro. This is just kind of to give you a visual cue to some opposites. Okay, when you talk about adjectives, there's so much vocabulary. I mean, my gosh, there's just tons of words. So what are going to be really common words that people might need when they travel? They might need expensive and cheap. And again, I'll give you a link to all these so you can look at them later and let that sink in. Un Ferrari es caro. A Ferrari is
Expensive.
expensive, caro, caro. Carro with a strong roll. Carro is car. But caro, with one R, caro, costs a lot, okay? They may also, you may hear the word costoso, costly, which means expensive, right? Caro, expensive. Costoso, also expensive. But the opposite, when something does not cost a bunch, is barato. Un Ferrari es caro, un Kia es barato. Kia is cheap, but not necessarily cheap in quality. This word barato doesn't mean cheap in quality, like will fall apart. It means doesn't cost a lot. Barato. Es caro, es barato. Those are two opposites. Here's some opposites, other opposites you may hear people use when you talk about height. Height of a building, height of a human being, height of an animal. We have alto, tall, un edificio alto, a tall building. Un edificio bajo, a short building. Alto, tall, bajo, short. It can be used for things to talk about height. It can be used about people to talk about height. Alto and bajo. Okay. Bien. New and old, new and old. Un nuevo zapato, a new shoe. Son zapatos viejos, they're old shoes. So I have just one high heel, un zapato on the left. So it's nuevo, one thing. Un nuevo zapato, wow, a new shoe. But son, they are. Son zapatos viejos, they are old shoes. And now once I change it to zapatos, plural, I've got viejos, old. See? Okay. Vale. If I'm talking about short and long, not tall and short people or tall and short buildings, but length, like these, or like, whoa, I can't get my zoom up enough, like pants, right? Things you wear, skirts, pants, sleeves, right? You've got long sleeves, you've got short sleeves, okay. We use a different word for length of clothing parts, I guess you would say. So, son pantalones cortos, they are shorts. They're short pants. So not a short man, but short pants. Son pantalones cortos. Cortos, right? Son pantalones largos. They're long pants. Aquí, bien, ¿sí? No son pantalones grandes. They're not like big pants. They're just long pants, right? Grandes would probably be a size. Okay. A ver. So again, some more opposites. Corto, largo. Okay. Es una habitación grande. It's a big hotel room. Es una habitación pequeña. Grande, big. Pequeña, small. Okay. Pequeño, if it's the masculine form. Cuidado. I want you to beware of one little thing with this term small, because this is something I hear from people. They hear that word poco. Poco does not mean small. They say, wait, Marilyn, yes, it does. No, it means, poco means a little bit. A little bit. It means a small amount. Okay. So if I want to say, oh, I just have a little bit of coffee left. Oh, tengo poco café. Tengo un poco de café. I have a little bit of coffee. Poco means a small amount, but it never talks about the size of an item. Okay. Pequeña talks about the size of a thing. Bien. Some other words they gave us were estrecha or estrecho for narrow. Es una calle estrecha. It's a narrow street. Es una calle ancha. It's a wide street. Ancha, estrecha. Bien. A ver. We can also use ancho and estrecho for shoes. We could. Son zapatos muy estrechos. Wow, these are narrow shoes. Son zapatos muy anchos. These are wide shoes. Okay? Some other words that your book gave you were opposites of bonito and feo. Bonito and feo. Es una ciudad bonita. It's a pretty city. Es un barrio feo. It's an ugly looking neighborhood. Feo, ugly. The word ugly in English also has an ugly connotation. You know, ugly is seen as a really strong word, like an impolite, strong word, but feo is a word that is used quite a lot in the Spanish language to talk about if something is just physically ugly, like this neighborhood is really run down, es un barrio feo, but it's also used to talk about a situation that's kind of going down the toilet. Yeah. You know, somebody may look at the traffic and it's bumper to bumper and they're distressed about it. I'll say, "Ay, es muy feo," meaning we're in a bad spot here. Right? So feo in Spanish is used quite a lot, not necessarily to say a human being is ugly or an animal is ugly, but to say that a situation is going down the drains in a hurry. Yeah. But they don't like the looks of this. Okay. Bien, so I'll send you some of those so you can see the opposites there. Bien, vale? And that, the more you read, the more you see, the more it will make sense. Okay. We're going to dip our toes into something else now. We're going to talk about what's coming up next in the book, because we've got next week, just technically last week, but I'm giving you a bonus week after that because we can. So anyway, we're going to take the next 2 weeks to talk about two topics. And one we're going to talk about really just briefly. And sadly, we won't get the chance to practice it a lot yet. We will come back to it in the fall. If you're coming back in the fall, because it's something that people need to kind of review all the time, and that is directions. So in your book, they're going to say in capítulo 6, yeah, chapter 6, it says around town, por la ciudad, around the town. And in this chapter, I would say kind of be aware more of the vocabulary aspect. So there are two things I want you to be aware of, and I'm going to give you some extra materials. I want you to be aware of vocabulary for directions. Vocabulary for directions. So vocabulary like how to say a city block, cuadra. How to say to the left, a la izquierda. How to say to the right, a la derecha. How to say straight ahead, which is not a la derecha, but derecho, ending in an O. It's the same word, but ending in an O. I mean, that is weird, but it is what they do. Okay. How to say words like semáforo, a traffic light, because some may tell you go 3 traffic lights down, right? We use those kind of landmark things to get around town. Notice that we use donde está, you know, where is something? So notice those words that talk about vocabulary related to directions. And also notice on page 86, they're going to list some interrogatives on 86, 86. Interrogatives are question words. Question words are words that ask you for specific information like who, what, when, where, why. Okay. So they're going to be words like donde, where, qué, what, cuál, which means which, but it can also mean what. It'll tell you that in the book. So they're going to give you a few interrogatives, and then on 87 they're going to give you more interrogatives like cómo and cuándo and por qué and quién. So take a look at interrogatives. And I would say probably don't muck about a great deal with the long fill in the blanks unless you want to look at some of those for examples. That's okay. And the other thing I'm going to ask you to do is to look at what they start to do with verbs in chapter 7, but I'll put this all into the email. So next week, we're going to start with verbs, and you may want to preview at least the first half of chapter 7. But chapter 6, just check it out for the vocab. What we're going to do today is take a look at a video that will help you with the vocabulary of directions. And directions are, can be complicated because sadly there are like 3 different ways to say turn. Which one is somebody going to use with you? They'll use whichever one they feel like that day at that second. Well, that doesn't help. Okay. So that word turn, your book gives you one word, but there's more than one word for turn. Oh, we don't do that. Yes, we do. Turn right, hang a right, take a right. We in English use different words that mean turn also, or in place of the word turn. So they do in Spanish. But to give you a survival list, and this is going to be a survival thing. I'll send you the link for this so you can watch it again. Vale la pena. It is actually worth watching it more than once. This guy does not have the best accent, and I skipped the whole first 5 minutes of the video because as a typical red-blooded young man, he's very interested in talking about how he was like sort of interested in these 2 girls. And I'm not sure that you really care about him trying to pick up a couple of good-looking girls in a bar. If you are, watch the first 5 minutes. Sure, go for it. Anyway, he kind of goes on and on about these girls in the bar. But the real point of the video is, how can you ask for directions fast? First of all, nobody's going to, if you're a tourist, nobody's going to be asking you to give directions. You don't have to know how to give directions. You have to know how to understand where to go to find something when you're lost. Nobody's going to be asking you, how do I find the hospital? You're a tourist, okay? But you need the hospital, you need the pharmacy, you need the post office. Shoot, you got the address for your hotel, but you can't remember how you got there. Okay, now you need help. And you need to be able to interpret those instructions. So he's got wonderful 3-question method. And I'll be darned, even though I don't really like his accent so well, this is the honest to God truth. And this is 100% right.
Fast, easy Spanish lessons
Whoa.
from somebody who speaks your language.
I don't know about you. I don't hear him. A ver, un momentito. Okay. Got this checked. Let's try one more time.
All the video clips you'll be seeing in this
Word his
game
audio
are
goes.
courtesy of my premium.
Let's try to bring this up a different way. Well, that is sad. I'll try to pull this up a different way. I'm going to give it one more college try here. I don't know if that's an internet problem or try again. Ooh, wow. Wow, well, I have a funny blip. I have a funny blip going on, and I do not know why. ¿Qué pasó? Let's try one more time, and if the third one is not a charm, then we will give up and I will give you the fast down and dirty. Ooh, wow, I cannot hear him. So I've got a problem that I think I cannot fix here. Perdón. So we're going to wing it on this instead of doing what I thought we were going to do. What I'm going to tell you is I will send you the link for this because for some reason, it does not want to turn on my video. And it may be a YouTube problem this morning. Okay, we'll try it one last time. I sort of hear it, but not really. Yeah, okay. For some reason, this is malfunctioning, guys. So, perdón, excuse me. I am sorry it is malfunctioning. I am going to show you at least what he looks like.
And bought the domain name No BS Spanish because I was going to teach you Spanish without the BS. Get it? So I made my first description. The three questions I'm about to
I'm going to talk about when you ask.
go to another quick example of these.
Your first question is ¿Dónde está? Where is something located? You know, you want to know where the subway entrance is. You want to know where the farmacia is. ¿Dónde está is the first question, right? ¿Dónde está?
Where you need to go. You just
the thing he's going to point
Metro
out.
Opera.
Here we go. Oh, por ejemplo.
You close in on your destination. Let's go to another quick example of these three questions in action. In this one, I'm
¿Dónde está is the first formula. Where is? And it might be la parada de metro, the subway stop. That's just an example, right? But when you ask ¿Dónde está? No matter which Spanish-speaking country it is, I guarantee you're going to see the human being you ask do this.
in Madrid looking for the metro stop opera or la parada de metro opera.
Señor, discúlpame.
Watch the guy.
¿Dónde está la parada de metro
Watch the guy.
ópera?
¿Dónde está?
Ópera, mira, toma abajo.
Ópera. Point. This seems so just intuitive. Well, of course he points. Every Hispanic country, when you ask ¿Dónde está? They will turn and point somewhere. Every single one. This is the truth. So the first of the three easy question is ¿Dónde está? And the next is going to be how many minutes walking, right? So he's going to coach you through those little questions, the really, really super easy questions of how to get to a place. And it is worth watching, but start at about minute 5, unless you want the cute chick story. Okay. I'm going to give you actually 2 things to look at about directions. But I'm also going to give you a little list of directions information. You can't see this page, right? See? Wait a minute.
We could see it.
Okay, so there's no audio here. So I'm just going to help you with that. So I'm going to tell you, go watch that video. He's going to talk about the 3 questions you need to get around town. You know, you basically ask them for it. They're going to point and you say en esa dirección, in that direction, and they'll verify, sí, sí, right? And then you're going to ask, ¿cuántos minutos andando? How many minutes walking? Or ¿cuántos minutos caminando? How many minutes walking? Those are the three questions. ¿Dónde está? Where is it? Right? En esa dirección, in that direction, and then they'll verify that you got that right. Sí. And then, ¿cuántos minutos? How many minutes? And the reason you ask how many minutes is that most people in most of, unless you're in a vastly huge city like Barcelona, like Madrid, like, well, maybe Ciudad de Mexico, because that's an enormous city where you might have to take the metro. Most people walk much, much more abroad than we Americans do. People in the US don't walk to get to places as much, unless you are a New Yorker, perhaps. But in most places in Europe and in Latin America, people walk much more commonly to get to general areas. So if you're walking around your hotel, you're going to ask, ¿cuántos minutos? How many minutes? And they'll tell you how many minutes it takes to get there. And if it's more than 30, like a lot of people think 30 minutos, no es nada, nothing. It's nothing if it's a 30-minute walk. A lot of Americans will say, I'm taking a taxi, but para que sepan, so you know. If it's going to be really, really far, they're going to tell you, está muy lejos, it's really, really far. Okay? So we're going to take a look at some vocabulary that you need for asking where stuff is. So let's look at our page now. Instrucciones or direcciones, all those words talk about instructions, directions. Words to ask where something is located. The question is going to be something like, ¿Dónde hay? Where is there? Like, ¿Dónde hay una farmacia? Where is a pharmacy if you need to buy medicine? Okay. ¿Dónde está? Asks where is something located. People may throw in a different word rather than está. So this little word, I'm going to actually underline this because instead of using está, they may use this word queda. Queda is an equivalent to está. When they say, if they say queda, they mean is located. Just like está means is located. So you may ask, ¿Dónde está la farmacia? Where's the pharmacy? Because you desperately need a painkiller. Queda muy cerca. Queda just means the same thing as está. Just so you know. They may switch to a different word because they feel like it. If you want to say you're looking for something, the word for I'm looking for is busco. Busco. And if you're walking around, you need to get to some place and you want to know, how do I get to this place? How do I get to the pharmacy? How do I get to the museum? How do I get to the zoo? You need to ask this question, ¿Cómo llego a? ¿Cómo llego a means literally, how do I arrive at? But in English, we wouldn't use it as arrive at. We would say get to. So the llego a means the get to. ¿Cómo llego a? So, un ejemplo, an example. ¿Cómo llego al Museo de Arte? How do I get to the art museum? ¿Cómo llego al correo? How do I get to the post office? ¿Cómo llego al metro? How do I get to the subway? ¿Cómo llego al hotel Marriott? How do I get to the Marriott Hotel if that's where you're staying, right? ¿Cómo llego a? How do I get to? And he'll talk about that in that video as well. But all of those things are going to be kind of ways of either asking a question or indicating to somebody that you're looking for a place. How do I get to this place? Or I'm looking for this. Okay. People may use different words to say go. Va or vas, you go. Vas is a formal, you go. Va is a form, vas is a familiar, you go. Va is a formal, you go. They may say it as a command, and then it will still have that B sound, but it'll be vaya or vayan. Vayan if they're talking to, like, you're traveling with your wife or your husband, and there are two of you there. They'll talk to you as a you guys. So vaya, go, or vayan, you guys go. Or they'll say keep going. And the keep going word is sigue or siga or sigan. Sigue is the friendly keep going. Siga is the formal, gee, I don't know you from Adam, the formal keep going. And sigan is if they're talking to more than one of you, keep going. So you'll hear something like talking to one person, siga recto, or siga derecho, go straight. Or siga tres cuadras, go 3 blocks. Okay, so those are your words for keep going. They might, instead of siga, use continua, the friendly form, or continue, the formal form, or the plural form, continuen. So all those words you see under the go underlined category might be used to say go, keep going, continue on. Yeah, somebody's telling you this direction. And it might be the word derecho, it might be recto. There are variations. So directions, like let's look at words that talk about direction, because you're going to see these in the next chapter. Siga, and they may or may not use the word todo. They may use it. They may skip that word todo. So that's in parentheses. Siga derecho means keep going straight. Siga todo derecho also means keep going straight. Todo just makes it kind of emphatic. They may skip the word todo, they may keep it. Another word that also means straight is siga recto. Siga recto. Recto and derecho means straight. Straight, dead ahead, straight ahead. That's what derecho and recto mean. Okay. If they tell you to turn, you may hear any of these terms. Turn might be expressed different with different verbs. It might be gira, familiar. Gire, more polite. Giren, hey you guys, there's more than one of you. Turn. It might be dobla, familiar. Doble, polite. Doblen, hey you guys. That also means turn. It might be de vuelta, da vuelta, den vuelta. That might be more like hang a right, hang a left. It still means turn, okay? So those are the turn words, and they have different verbs for turn, and people may use different terms for, talking to you. And here are the directions, and these do not vary. They are always the same in every country. A la derecha, to the right, A la izquierda, to the left. A la derecha, a la izquierda. A means to. A la derecha, to the right. A la izquierda. I want you to notice I've got derecho in bold and I've got derecha in bold. Derecho with an O at the end means this way, straight. But derecha with an A at the end is the direction right. They're only different by one letter. So cuidado. Izquierda, you always means, it's always left. But derecho and derecha are very, very different in meaning, and they only differ by one sound. And then I've got some other terms here. If they tell you to cross the street, it may be cruza, cross, okay, in a familiar way. Cruce, a more polite, formal way. Crucen, hey, you guys, cross. Crucing, okay? And then these are other terms that I'll talk about, just vocabulary with directions. La esquina is a street corner. El semáforo is a traffic light. Al lado de or junto a means next to. Al lado is a side. Al lado de, on the side of. So that means next to. La cuadra means a city block. You may hear different words for in front of, but well, it's not all. Delante kind of sounds different. Enfrente de, delante de, frente a is in front of or facing, right? Detrás de means behind or in back of. Entre means between. Okay. And just the word for street is la calle, la calle. Bien? So actually, I'm going to give you two videos that talk about directions. One is that really easy, if you're in distress, 3 ways to ask for how do I get someplace. And that one is super great because sometimes we have brain farts. And, I know this stuff, you say, but then, you feel pressured and you forget. So when all else abandons you, the 3 questions video will get you someplace with really no pain whatsoever, right? That's a como llego a, right? ¿Dónde está? Where is something? En esa dirección, is it that direction? And cuántos minutos, how many? But there's going to be another video where she's going to give you a little bit more of the vocabulary for street and between and in front of, and that'll be a little more instructive. So that'll be something for you to kind of listen to so you understand it. Remember, it is not important for you to be able to give directions. It is important for you to understand how to get to a place. That's the survival skill you're seeking for at this point. Bien? Vale? Okay. You're going to also start to read a little bit about what regular verbs do. You have seen estar and ser and tener, and all verbs are going to go into those forms. You're going to start to see in the next chapter, and I only want you to look at part of the chapter. You're going to start to see in el capítulo 7, yes, it is 7. You're going to start to see what happens with what we call regular verbs. Ser and estar and tener are all what we call irregular verbs, meaning that there's always some form that has some oddball pattern. But regular verbs are going to be the verbs that always follow a very predictable pattern. And as long as you know the infinitive it comes from, you can predict how you say, I do this versus you do this versus he or she, one person does this versus we do this versus they do this. Those are going to be the conjugations. That means all the different ways of saying that action. to indicate a certain person does that action. So there'll be, if I want to say cook, or if I want to say talk, I talk is hablo, but you, a friend, talking is hablas. And he or she talks is going to be habla. And we all talk, meaning I have people with me, is hablamos. And they, more than one person, are talking, will be hablan. So all verbs are going to have forms that say I do it, you do it, one person does it, more than one person does it, or we do this action. So they're going to start to introduce you to what regular verbs predictably do, how they change form to indicate who's doing an action. Bien? Are we good with that for today? See?
Sí.
And we'll come back and see lots and lots and lots of examples. We're only going to do a few examples with the whole directions thing because that you just need to hear a lot of. We're going to come back to it in the fall because we have to review it always. We have to review it. And it's the kind of thing that you can't really predict how somebody will respond to you. So you just need to see different situations. Okay?
Okay.
¿Está bien? Good. Okay, muy bien. So I want you to look at that vocabulary of getting around town, directions around a town, the question words, and just start to look at what AR verbs, AR infinitive verbs, how those are conjugated for a regular verb in the next chapter, but don't go through all that chapter yet. Bien. Bueno, entonces nos vemos. So I'll see you guys next week.
Thank you, Marilyn.
De nada.
Oh, thank you.
Que tengan una buena semana. Have a good week.
Y tú.
Gracias, gracias. Muchas gracias. Hasta luego.